For those of you that hadn't been here each morning, we're doing this deal to where we're taking one. I've tried to take one heading or one subject or one title and bring it under a lot of different topics. Today's topic is "Are you all in?" And the heading, really, the subject matter that I've tried to keep everything under is whatever you do regularly will determine what you will have eventually. If you regularly eat right and exercise, eventually you will be in better shape and live longer, hopefully. So that's just one, but I try to put everything underneath that heading. Today is "Are you all in?" And I've got a little deal that I kind of, I've always had a problem with people that say give 110%, because I don't really understand what it's like to give 110%. I only have 100%. So for me, I've always related that to like this. If somebody asked me to give 110%, then that meant whenever I was given 100%, I was holding back. So I only have 100%. When I usually get myself in trouble is whenever I try to give 110%, so to speak, because that's more than what I have. And that's, a lot of times you'll see, well, this is evident out here because we're at the national finals. You'll see guys do things that that's out of, not necessarily just out of their comfort zone, but they try to do more than they can even do. And that, in what I'm talking about, that's 110%. You're trying to do more than you can actually do. So there's both sides of that. There's holding back and giving 90%, 85%. Then there's the 110%. 100%'s 100%. That's all I've got. And you know, I've always tried to live under and surround myself with people that whatever their job that they're doing, they're all in. They do it with everything they have. If it's worth doing, it's worth giving everything you have to do it. No matter whether you're, if you're a roper, whether you're practicing, whether you're roping the dummy, whether you're teaching a clinic, whether you're at the national finals, because that's a habit that you create with yourself. Is before we can be faithful in the large and the big things, we have to be faithful in the little and the small things, right? So you train yourself daily to be able to be all in and give everything you have in everything you do. When I was, for those of y'all that have heard this story, I've got a buddy that's, whenever he comes and listens to me talk, he's like, "Please, not the sweeping story." He's heard it so many times. He's like, but I couldn't, when I start talking about being all in, and I couldn't, if I don't go back to that, that's just the way I've still referred to it. When I was about somewhere between 10 and 12 years old, my job was to sweep the back porch. We live out in the middle of nowhere, out 20 miles from civilization. I think our closest neighbor was about 3 or 4 miles away. And we live in West Texas. And so, of course, the wind blows occasionally and the sand will blow. So we have this big back porch. One of my jobs, chores, whatever you want to call it, was to sweep the back porch. Worse than sweeping that I hated was to be told to sweep. So once or twice a week, I was supposed to sweep the back porch. It's just kind of an understood deal. You take the trash out and you sweep the back porch, you know. Well, this is a huge back porch. I mean, it's almost as big as this area here. And I hated it. But one day something came on, a light came on to me, to where, and the deal is, nobody ever came to see us. We're out in the middle of nowhere. Why does it matter if there's dirt on the back porch, right? But the light came on to me one day while I'm sweeping, and I'm thinking, let's get done with this. And so I'm starting to sweep this back porch fast. But I took pride in it. I wasn't trying to just do a half-tailed job, if you know what the term for that is. I was trying to do as good as I could do, but I wanted to be fast and be done with it. Well, one day and of course it's about 110 degrees and wind was probably blowing while I was doing it. I'm doing it and I start like timing myself. I want to see how fast I can do it. Well, I wouldn't like to say that this happened all in one day, but over the course of about 6 months of me doing this, I've made a game out of this, with myself. I mean, you know, you live in the country, the closest neighbor's 5 miles away. You do what you can to have fun, right? I had a stick horse as a kid. That's the only toy I ever had, I think, other than a horse. So I'm making a game out of this, trying to see how fast I can do it. And even got to the point to where I would talk to myself and tell myself that I was good at this. Not only good at this, I got to the point where I told myself I was the best at this. I was not just the best, I was the fastest. Nobody could sweep better than me. Nobody could sweep as good as me. And I would get out there and go to just dust be just flying. And I was sweeping like a man possessed now, just like a house of fire. And I would tell myself, I'm the best sweeper in the world. Nobody can beat me. I'm the world champion sweeper. You know, nobody can sweep this fast. And I really did. And you know what I did? Okay, I'm 42 years old. Now, since I've had 3 kids, I've got a wife and 3 kids, okay? So I should be, but those of you that have a wife and 3 kids, you should know that if you go around and you're possessed with sweeping, you can sweep yourself literally to death. So I have calmed down a little bit, but I still sweep the barn pretty good. Every time before I come to the house, like everybody thinks I rope the dummy before I go to the house. No, I might rope the dummy, but I sweep the floor before I rope the dummy, then I sweep the floor after I rope the dummy. My barn is like really, really clean. What I'm telling you to tell you this is this: be careful. Be careful how you set yourself up for success, because I have made something that I literally hated and couldn't stand to do, that now I'm like obsessed. I'm not obsessed by it. I'm not going to speak that on myself. I'm not obsessed by sweeping. I am just extremely picky about sweeping. And I'd be willing to bet y'all might be able to outrope me, but I'll bet you can't outsweep me. Because I've told myself time and time again that I am the best sweeper in the world. Probably more times than I've told myself I was the best roper in the world. Now that's kind of crazy, but what I'm saying with all that is I'm all in on sweeping. How was that? Well, I spoke it, and guess who heard it? Me. And it made an impression in my life. Now, being all in, I got the other, this has been a while back. I've been not rodeoing, been out with a few little knick-knack injuries, and I make a trip with my mother. I had to make a trip to Amarillo, which is 2 hours away, and she decides she's going to go with me one day. So we're driving up there, and we're talking, we're breaking it down, you know, about life and just stuff, just hanging out with my mom. And we get to talking about roping. And she, a long 4-hour, 5-hour conversation, 4-hour conversation short here, is my mother called me out. And she says to me, she says, if you're going to rope, then rope. If you're not, then quit. I'm like, what? My mom calling me out. I'm like, you have all these thoughts. You probably shouldn't share them, but I'm going to anyway. I don't care. What are y'all going to do anyway? It's the last 2 days. What are y'all going to fire me from this? Right? And y'all didn't pay to get in here anyway. Listen to this. So this is worth what you're paying for it, right? But when she's telling me this, I'm like, Mom, like I say, you probably shouldn't be saying, I'm thinking it. I'm going to give you my thoughts. We all have crazy thoughts, right? I'm like, I'm a world champion, Mom. You know, who you going to tell me I can't rope, you know? But what my mother did was something that I don't guess there's very many people that have done that in my life. Really called me out and said, if you're going to rope, be all in. You know, you got yourself split among about 50 different things. And then roping's never been #1 to me. It's what I do. It's not who I am. But you have to be committed. You have to be committed. You can't commit one day and then think, I don't think I'm going to do that. I watch that year in and year out. Guys that will try, they say, what are you going to do? I'm going to go to the buildings. That means the winter rodeos. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try it. You're going to try it. Well, while you're trying it, I'm going to be putting my kids through college on your money that you're trying it with. Then that's kind of the mentality. I mean, that's just speaking truth. Big Al knows this better than anybody. He's been at this game forever. Commitment has never been something that was lacking in his vocabulary. And you have to be committed to doing this. So it inspired me so much. My mom's talk inspired me so much. Not so much that I'm like, I'm quitting everything and I'm going back to roping. I bought 5 horses and 45 calves and I'm going back to practice pen. No, my inspiration comes at a little bit different pace nowadays, because I see it, I'm good where I'm at. But if the things for me, I feel like nowadays are not necessarily so much for me. It's for my children, my kids. I got 2 little boys and a little bitty girl. It's for what I'm going to pass on to them. That's what this is. And so I have an outlet. I have a soapbox. I write an article once a week, right? Once a month. And I write an article. I'm so inspired. I'm like, man, I got to write this article. So I write this article about are you all in? And I go into great detail about what it is and how you need to do it and how you need to commit yourself and commit to it. I get a text at 7 o'clock one morning about a week after I've wrote this article. It's an arena that has been freshly plowed, and in the arena you can tell it's taken from the box, and you can see the sun's just barely coming up, and there's calves in the chute, and you can see horses' ears. Somebody took a picture from sitting on the back of their horse with their calves loaded, with the arena just got through just being plowed. And you can tell it's in the morning. It's from Cody Old, and he says to me, the little caption says, I'm all in. And so about 15 seconds later, I get a phone call from him. Cody's one of those rodeo cowboys. He's like most rodeo cowboys. Whatever time you get up, you think the whole world should be up, right? He says, hey, buddy, what you doing? I said, oh, you know, he's like, you better get out of bed. Well, I will tell the truth. We already had the calves pinned that morning, not to rope, but we were fixing to brand. And it takes a lot more to get calves and cows in the lot than it does to bring them up the alley. And I didn't want to bust Cody's bubble, but I'm like, Bart, I've been up since 4:30 this morning. But it was for a different thing. And you know what? It actually spoke to me. I'm like, now, this guy's all in. And from that time, and I'm not trying to take credit for Cody O's roping by any means, but let me tell you something. It inspired him. It fired him up. And you know what happened right after that? The guy wasn't even in the top 40. And he come into the finals in the top 4 or 5. He went like a house of fire for the rest of the year. And he still uses it. I'll see him here, and he's like, I'm all in, man. I'm all in. You know, it's something that whatever it is, it doesn't have to be roping. Just roping just happens to be something that I can relate to. I've spent my life doing it, and it's something that I have an understanding of. And so it makes it to where I'm all in that. So, but whatever your area of life, whatever you do, you do as unto the Lord. So whatever God has blessed you with, whatever ability it is, whatever it is that God has called you, whatever your passion is, whatever it is that you love to do, because everybody has something that you're called to do, and you can do it better than anybody else that there is. You can be you better than anybody else can be you. You don't have to be like anybody else. I would love to rope steers heel like Big Al, but you know what? Not bad enough to put the time into it to do it like what he's done it. But you know what? I wasn't called to heel. I was called to, I'd like to think I was called to be a dad. I'd like to think that would be my most important job in my life, is to be able to relate to my kids as daddy and to point them in the right direction, which is up. Not to me, but up. Reach out and point them up. That's my most important job. And I think, well, us as parents, I think that's everybody's most important job. But whatever God has called you to do, whatever you've been blessed with, and like I say, we all have been blessed. You don't have to win a gold buckle. You don't have to have a microphone in your hand. In fact, I would say this: most of the people that have influenced me the most in my life have not been people that stood up and talked to people, but people that lived it out, that were actually people that we would call, that probably never had, they didn't even know it. But they walked it out. They walked their faith out. They walked it out day by day, because that's what we're on. We're on this journey of life to be able to take what God has given us, the talents, the abilities. It doesn't have to be like on some platform. Like I say, I think that's way overrated myself. I think a platform is way overrated. But whatever God has given you, you take it, you make the most of it, and you be the very best you that you can be. All right? All right. So, and that's the deal. Whatever you do regularly will determine what you'll have eventually. If you're regularly all in, then eventually you'll be successful at whatever it is, because you know no different. I know no different. I don't want myself to ever know any different other than success. And success has many, many different ways of being able to show itself. And so regularly give it all you got. Be all in.